Hello, welcome to Muse and Metrics. This is your host, Philippa Burgess, and I'm here with another guest today, a fellow Women Techmaker Ambassador. Go ahead and invite you to introduce yourself and tell us a little about you and your tech background.
My name is Meenakshi. A little about me. My background is a story. It has very ups and downs. So be patient to hear my story. So I was a very keen, enthusiastic student, and like while in my school days, I was doing my college. I used to like teach ahead of like 2 years ahead math subjects to students. So I was always up in math, and then I moved to BTech and did my computer science. I got admitted to NIT, but I didn't go there because we are very traditional family and my mom didn't want to leave me. So I just studied in my hometown nearby, and there I did some innovation projects with Microsoft, and uh, I got opportunity to work with Emphasis HP company. And then due to some conditions, I moved back to my original hometown, and there I started to work with Google as a SQL developer. And my journey started there as a full stack developer working on core technologies such as PHP, Java, front end, back end, everything. And then I moved to London. And moving to London, I was like very keen to pursue something because it was everything new to me. I just got married, and I was always a career oriented person. So I wanted to do something, but I didn't have any visa. So I volunteered myself. I took myself on couple of sites online and see, okay, these are my skills. Who is willing? Like I can volunteer in couple of projects. I can volunteer in these technologies. Who is ready to take me up? I'm happy to collaborate in anything. Then Iski is a like real estate student company to provide like housing for students. It's a startup at UCLA, and Anis was very interested about my background and everything, and she told, "Okay, you're the person," and she trusted me a lot, and we did from ideation like to production to entire everything I managed in the startup. And we holded like we raised almost like some money in the startup, and it got pretty successful. She moved to California and had to like stay in London for another couple of months. Then after that we had to move to US too, and I moved to California, and I searched for different opportunities there, but I couldn't get any. So I volunteered with Google Chrome, becoming Google Chrome a rising star, and getting like giving the support for the users on the Chrome issues, and volunteered couple of startups here and there in India, in UK, like that. My journey like stumbled on different countries here and there. And even though like I applied for my work permit, and suddenly I got to know like a break again. So and I moved to India, and after moving there I didn't want to see, like I couldn't sit alone, or I couldn't like keep my mind empty. I was like going in thoughts, what to do now, what can I do, how can I empower kids. So I trained students all across like India, teaching them how to move in career, how to get into tech, and collaborate with other Google like GDG, Google Developer Expert groups, and giving sessions and everything. Then later on, I did some of my masters in data science, which was like very keen. I found like data is the interesting part, and it has various insights and stories to tell, and there is a lot of advantage working on data roles. And I was research oriented, so I thought that is perfect fit to me, and I enrolled in that course from Triple IT Bangalore, and I completed my PG in data science. That was my short story in India. and I came back again to US. I trained Indian government medium and small scale industries in data science, and came back to US and started like to see again what can I do. But in the meantime, I I thought of like doing a startup, and I built a startup, and it was featured in Slush Japan and Web Summit Lisbon. And that was a very proud moment for me. And I was like also nominated as the top tech woman in under 30 during that time in Dubai. So these were some of the really great moments for me. um, and uh, and then I again started my research again. What do? I came back again to the US while doing this startup, and suddenly, due to my dad's demise, I left everything there because I felt some guilt, like because of me I didn't concentrate and it happened. That guilt was in me there. I kept silent for a few years there. I didn't do anything until like 1 year, until my son was born. Then I recovered, like, okay, my dad came back and I also raised myself up, and this is not what my dad wants, and I have to start again. So I did my master thesis in data science in UK university. So that was from University of Liverpool, and I just completed with merit. And there was also like couple of things. I was working with startups, giving mentorship to students, and I got introduced to Women Techmakers back in while I was in India, and empowering students. And that's the time I got enrolled. But after coming here, I searched, okay, here also there might be something similar, and I got to know about the ambassador, and immediately I applied for it and got selected. And from then there is nothing stopped. I like successfully did some workshops, did some speaking engagements, motivated and mentored many people, and went to Google I/O, where you were part of. It was really great to meet you in person there. So now I'm like in search of job after long ups and downs.
You have done quite a bit. You have a lot going on there, and you clearly have an extensive credentials and a global experience, having lived in India and the United States and the UK and traveled to Dubai. And so you really do have a global perspective. But what
Yeah,
I'm getting from you is that you've just moved again and
yeah.
you're relocating and you're sort of like, wait, how do I start over? What's here? What's next? And I think that sometimes is a little bit can be intimidating for anybody looking for a job, whether they're a starter or mid-career or advanced in their career. Whenever we have these kind of transitions, they can we don't know what's there for us, and finding that momentum and finding that sense of belonging and finding that best expression of ourselves, while at the same time taking into account our other responsibilities. So, do we want to work remote? Do we want to work locally? How far are we willing to drive? Are we, how much are we willing to travel? Like, all of those things need to be accounted for as you start to kind of look for your next position.
True. True. It was not an easy played on me, because the first thing, I don't know how to drive, and I'm mom of two kids, and one is like very enthusiastic and creative. She was like topper in science exhibition, and she participated in Google doodles, and she's like very enthusiastic to participate in anything, and she says, I want to do it. And and keeping her engaged, and I want to get her, give a push on that, and I don't want to stop her there, and also pursue my dreams, and also take care of my toddler. And doing my thesis, they were like many sleepless nights, because I was working with UK thesis supervisor, and from India, like I was working with a couple of startups and home. So it was a hassle, I can say, but at all everything comes to a good end. So that's the one thing I always see, like my dream, always I dream of one goal, and the goal transforms into insights and insights to actions. So whenever I perform those actions, I feel accomplished, that I'm accomplishing a dream. That's a major achievement. And it's okay to be in the tunnel, but coming through out of the tunnel and seeing a beautiful light and the perspective there, that gives immense joy. So I always think like that.
Yeah, I am seeing again that joining, for example, Women Tech Makers for me
Yeah.
was, and I say this not lightly, it was absolutely a transformative experience. I have been transformed in my participation. Even things as simple as a podcast. When I first started it, I knew I wanted to speak, but I didn't know how to book guests. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to talk about. So I just was me until I met fellow tech makers and we started by doing audio summits. And then those gained momentum and I got a lot of positive feedback. And I was like, oh, this is not as hard as I thought it was. And I have this amazing pool of guests. And you all kind of came to support what I was doing. And I found that I could add value to helping people sort of find their voice and momentum. And it's just been a wonderful collaboration. But this wouldn't exist without the benefit of this community and all of our common shared purpose of empowering women in tech and wanting to see women thrive.
Yeah, that's true. It's so amazing to see this like amazing community. Whomever they are, they're always like ready to give a hand and like pull you through up. And whatever situation you're stuck in, you're always there, like you have someone to be talked to. So that's really a big, I can say, a big advantage in anyone's career or life journey.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes I have to slow down my review of the Slack channel, for example, because there's so many opportunities. And if I spend too much time there, I won't actually get other things done that I need to do. So I do
Yeah.
find that it is just overwhelming, the amount of opportunities. And I am someone in a grad school life, I'm in a bit of a different kind of transitional time. And I think now I'm wanting to start to go like look at getting back to work because I've been in school for a while. And I think one of the things about leaving school is there, and you've been obviously doing your thesis and you have quite a bit of grad school, is there's a safe space in grad school, but at the same time, there's a point where it's like, okay, now I can be done. And I am really happy to know that some of the things I'm involved in, like Women Tech Makers, don't end when my school ends.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so amazing to know, like back in our days there was only thing, like I wished I had like someone elder to me who can hear me, who can guide me and you can like, during my college days or during my innovation like project days, I was thinking like that. And when I found this community, I felt so immense pleasure. And that say a name like leadership, mentorship, like to kickstart your journey, and opportunities to attend several sessions, skill up, and collaborations, whatnot. Like there's so many things to do, and we are really like overwhelmed with all of these things on our plate.
Yes. And there is no lack of opportunity. And I think that I see and hear a lot of times people will say, where do I start? And I can see that when you don't have that momentum, that sort of flow of opportunities, it can be a little bit daunting. But then once you start raising your hand, once you start showing up, once you start finding community, once you start finding the voice, and I just spent a week at a conference, and I think conferences in a way, I think of them as mirrors because you end up having the same conversation over and over and over about who you are, what you want, how you fit into this community, where you've been, where you're going next. And it really it informs you of you. I left last year, the same conference I just was at, really realizing that actually was a big part of the instigator. When I left that conference, that's when I kicked off the seasons of my podcast with guests. I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for audio. This year I'm coming back and I'm like, I am ready for video. We're going to do a lot more with video because that's a natural kind of part of my progression, but I'm also seeing that's very much what it seems like the community is inviting from me. Like that there's room for that. People want to collaborate. People want to see me grow in that direction. And it was very clear in that particular space, which is more geospatial, so mapping, that there's really only a handful of top kind of creators, and there's room in that environment for someone like myself to collaborate, but with a very kind of technical focus.
Yeah, my first project was on Google Maps too. And the immense, like, the opportunity you have, like, you don't even you were started the cybersecurity workshop or something you started.
Yeah.
And when I correlated both the geospatial and the cybersecurity, the markers of, like, the regions it can map and the threats it can map using the geospatial data, I was like amazed to see, oh my God, how are these both connected in such a way that you can explore and eradicate so much threats based on these, and they are like potential markers for eliminating major cybersecurity threats. And many of them who wanted to start in cybersecurity, like, they only think, okay, it's about IT, but it's not about IT. It's about how you protect your data, your network, your cloud. It's about everything. And that really amazed me.
And that's something that is quite amazing for me as well, as I start on this certificate and certification journey. And so I'm now sort of sitting these proctored exams, and I just did my ISC squared CC, sort of certified in cybersecurity, and I just did the Google Digital Cloud Leader exam, only to find that the Digital Cloud Leader, 1/3 of that exam is cybersecurity. And of the certified in cybersecurity, 1/3 of that exam is cloud. And so they definitely stack. And then I study kind of human security and geospatial intelligence, which also has a lot to do with disaster management, disaster recovery, business continuity. And a solid 10% of both of those exams included a business continuity disaster component. So what I'm finding is that these skills kind of stack. Like once you start learning, there's a foundation that is very similar. And I'm doing the same thing with the Google Coursera certificates, because I'd gotten a scholarship through Women Techmakers. And once you hit a certain point of going through all the modules, they start to repeat. Like all the different certificates, most of them have a Python component.
Yeah,
a lot of them will have an SQL, a Linux component. A lot of them have, so there's this sense that once you start going, it moves faster because it's more familiar and you start sort of treading the same paths. So I'm really enjoying kind of upping my tech skills.
Yeah.
And enjoying doing hackathons and seeing that there's stuff that I'm really good at and there's stuff that I still have a lot to learn. So I'm enjoying kind of finding my way technically and then noticing that there's still room in the technical fields and the geospatial fields for the creative and social parts of myself to do podcasts and videos and things like that. Because even Women Developers Academy, I was like, oh, this is great. They're going to teach me to code better. Oh, no. It's a public speaking course.
Yeah.
Because they very much want women to find their voice and to speak. And even in our cybersecurity mentorship program, different people are in different places, but there's kind of what do you need to know about organizations and certifications and certificates. And then there's the actual tech skills. And then there's the job seekers who are kind of in the I need a job. And then there's the brand building. And a lot of them also need to understand that knowing how to speak, knowing how to do a presentation, knowing how to write an article, knowing how to write a report are as valuable as other, coding skills and network analysis and other, types of cyber skills. So all are welcome.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. And I want to ask, like, one advice you want to give for anyone who are job seekers to start in this field, if they're like want to start their career in tech, and like they have a break, or they have like some kind of juggling ups and downs like me. What advice you have?
Well, I think the very first thing, and I go back to that sort of that mirror thing, is be specific about your reality of, especially because now we're in a world that I didn't necessarily imagine even a decade ago, where you can work remotely, you can work in a hybrid. Some people can move for a job. Some people need to be where they are. Some people are in a city. Some people are in a suburb or remote area. So I think the very, very first thing is to be very clear about your reality and what serves you. Are you looking for a job that's anywhere? And you're like, well, wherever it is, I'll move there. The family will come with me and or are you like, no, they're pretty settled. They're where they are. And I need to go to the job, and how far am I willing to commute? How much am I willing to travel? So you need to really know those lifestyle boundaries first and foremost. I think and I think a lot of people, if you can't say, oh, I just need a job, be very specific. How far are you willing to, you said, like, I was gonna say, how far are you willing to drive? But if you said, I don't drive, okay, so it's public transportation, or it's Uber, or it's having someone in your family drop you off and pick you up, or it's being able to work remotely. So getting really grounded in your reality, I think, is the very first step.
Yeah.
So first of all, just knowing where you are in the world, physically and logistically. And it's totally okay if you say, it's going to be outside the house, and I've got to take total transportation there, and it's got to be within, 10 miles of my house in any direction. Then you draw a map and you kind of start to look at what are the businesses, what type of industries are around in the neighborhood. Or you may decide, I want to do a remote job. I can work from the home, and that's totally fine with me, and I'm good on a remote team. And then you have that, the job can be in a lot of places, but it might be harder because you have to kind of get in front of the right people. It might be a little more competitive. You have excellent education, you have excellent tech skills. But I feel like the next thing I would say is, we all work in industries. There's a community around what you're doing, and there may be several intersecting communities. So for example, cybersecurity is its own field, geospatial is its own field, but it's you can even say cloud is its own field, but it applies across industries. So what industry are you interested in working in? Are you interested in working in sort of the general sort of tech industry? Or you want to work for government? Do you want to work for startups? Do you want to work for mid-sized business? Do you want to work for large corporations? Because they all have sort of their own culture. Do you want to work within the banking sector, the manufacturing sector? Like, you might be open, but it's helpful to find communities and organizations and associations involved with those particular verticals and industries.
Yeah, sometimes I too wonder the same, like quantity versus quality. Like, you spend so much time and you apply for so many jobs. Instead, like, the one job you apply with full dedication, and you highlight your skills and give your best. And who knows, like, out of like 100 applications you just applied randomly, and 12 applications you dedicatedly applied, you might get call from the dedicated applications because you have highlighted your skills, what you can do, who you are, you presented yourself, and it's a perfect fit for that job.
And I think sometimes, like, I feel sometimes I look like I'm going in all these different directions because I like communications, and I like, sort of broader tech and geospatial and cloud and AI ML and security. And yet at the same time, there's opportunities that I notice are like so perfect because they're that perfect intersection of all of these sometimes seemingly different things. Like, for example, I'm interested in federal government, and I might be doing spatial data science, which also kind of intersects with intelligence, which also at the core of anything to do with intelligence is security and cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being that if you follow the things that really are of interest to you and that are uniquely you, when that position presents itself, you will stand out for that position.
True.
Another thing is that we heard from a hiring manager is that companies don't always want to pay to promote their positions. So the very first place a company will put its position is on their own career page of their website. That doesn't cost them any money to do. It's just kind of like just a protocol of, oh, we have a new job to post, put it on the website. So if there's companies that you're looking at that you're particularly interested in, following them on social media, regularly visiting their pages, be clear about the companies that would be your ideal scene, that you think you would like the culture. And then think about the people who work there. What associations might they belong to?
Yeah.
And start to join those associations. I know as a student, it's a lot cheaper for me. So I have plenty because I get free or very low cost membership. And I know when I'm no longer a student, I'll have to be more thoughtful about which ones I'm willing to spend the money to invest in. But there are associations for everything.
True.
And even if you are saying, okay, so let's say it sounds like you might even be undecided. You're like, I would do a job locally if it's easy to get to and it's flexible enough with my family and I can, be in person, or I'm willing to do stuff online. So you can kind of consider both of those. But if you're looking for local, get out there, go to your local chamber of commerce, look for other sort of your Office of Economic Development. Mm-hmm. What types of industries, are in your community? Some towns are insurance towns. Some towns are manufacturing towns. Some towns are biomedical, or there's a lot of hospitals in the area. I don't know what it is, but sort of see like where your interest is. And if you're interested in, for example, like the healthcare field, then there are certain, again, associations, organizations, podcast, media, different people you can start to follow on LinkedIn that are going to sort of round out that dedication and that interest.
Yeah. And I also heard like networking helps a lot. Like the more people you have in your network and you reach out to them, the more chances are like you getting into a job.
Absolutely. And because the networking is not so much that you have one relationship or even several relationships. The real power of networking is where the people know each other, that there's this sense of fabric and that you're seen, and there's a sense of belonging. There's a sense of this community, and that's where those people are more likely to alert you to an opportunity or give you a tip or some advice for things. I started as an intern in high school because I was very interested in media, and I was very motivated in those directions, and I was in and around New York City. Mm-hmm. And so I started interning, and I remember asking someone at my internship that I had just gotten into USC and I was accepted my application. So I was going to move across country, but I needed to get a job on campus as part of my financial aid package. And I remember asking, and I was so happy that I did, to say, what advice do you have about what I should do for my student job? And he told me, he's like, start talking to anybody you can talk to find out what are the best jobs on campus. Find out the most competitive, the best jobs that would be, and I was interested in the film school. So he's like, find out within the film school, what are the most sought after jobs. And then he's like, you call them right now. And this is months before the semester starts. He's like, and you send them a resume right now. And I did that, and I got the call, and I got the interview, and the hiring, he was a grad student, but like the hiring manager, the boss of the department. I worked in what they call the cinema library, which was like the hangout where everybody came in to like get their scripts, get their films. It was like the perfect place to sort of network. It was just a cool job. I had it for all 3 out of 4 years, only because the last year I left to go kind of was doing production stuff and then did an internship. But he was so impressed. He was like, I am so impressed that you reached out to me so early and that you were so motivated. Because like, when I stepped on campus, the first hour that I was there, and again, coming in from the East Coast to Southern California, like my interview was set up. And so I got the job. So again, it doesn't really matter what level of job, you know, whether it's an entry level job or a mid-level, or like this was me just wanting a student job. But that one piece of advice that someone gave me changed my entire school experience. And then those relationships, because every film student came through there to kind of hang out and just chat and or do their kind of research. I got to know like so much of the film school. So even today, like so many of the executives and people in Hollywood, I know them from my time at the Cinema Study Center.
That's awesome. Yeah, before too, like students didn't have much opportunities other than like now what they have, the reach, the internet and the social sites and everything. And now I think it's like much, much better than what it is in 10 years before. And you know, the kind of opportunities and the kind of like available options, even in tech field, like you get as a student is much more valuable. Like you can get license for free, Tableau license for free if you want to like study it, and Alteryx free. And if you need to study data science, you have like bunch of courses online from prominent institutes and universities for available for free. And you just need your time and dedication. The current situation of students is like much better than before, but the only thing is like lacking is you know, the kind of like opportunities available because of the COVID and the, after that long lasting effects of the COVID. And these are
It's had its challenges, but I think again for remote work, it certainly opened things up. For example, this conference that I went to and having an interest in government, I was talking to different departments. And for example, like the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, they all work from home.
Wow.
It's a remote department. I mean, at least the geospatial people, the people I met who were sort of at that conference who did the geospatial work, they were all working from home across the country.
That's
and
awesome.
What had happened is they said like one of the managers had a star IT person, and this predates COVID, but that person, I don't know if they got married or something happened that they needed to move. And the department was like, we can't lose you. Like, whatever it is, like, just go. just don't leave us. Just go. And so that was like, and then it worked. And more and more people were like, wait, I could use that flexibility. And so it predates COVID that they've had a very, just a very functional remote working team. So again, different cultures, different departments of different organizations are going to have different attitudes about, you know, are you in person? Are you online? So some people thrive in person and don't thrive as much online. Some people are more comfortable online. Some people are a good mix of both. I feel like I'm both. So just, you know, so a lot of it's like knowing yourself. I think you sort of answered your own question, I think, in terms of you found that when you were in a new place, you started by volunteering.
Yeah.
And I also, similarly, when I was in a new place, I'd start by volunteering in some capacities, but I'd also do contract work because I'd meet people and I'd have a solution for them they hadn't thought about. And I was like, oh, I can do that for you. And so I would just end up building a book of contract work.
Yeah. How do you see these opportunities, like, you know, the remote work or like the contract work? Like, what resources do you have like to explore these opportunities?
Well, let me ask, and again, part of it again is coming back to who are you? And so who are you is like, okay, I know, you know, I'm either in this geographic area or I know I need remote work. So another question, and this is just for everybody, not necessarily specific to you, but also because I do ask because you have traveled the world, you know, what is your immigration status? Are you, you know, legally, you know, are you a U.S. citizen? Are you here on a visa? Like, does someone need to sponsor you? So those questions need to be answered just so you know that sort of legal status of what do you qualify for. So, for example, there's many positions in the government, but you do have to be a U.S. citizen.
Oh.
You know, so I think part of it is also, like I said, knowing that legal status also, it limits you, but it also gives you more focus.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you sort of say, is it private sector or is it public sector? And so if you're like, well, I'm not a US citizen, then it's like, great, let's focus you on the private sector. And a big opportunity can also lie in just showing up, just showing you have all these skills. So like hackathons are great. I did one where there was 5,000 participants, and I didn't feel like I was the strongest candidate, but I think the one thing I brought was maturity and dedication. I was willing to give it the 8 hours that it deserved of focused, like, I will figure this out. And I came in 201.
Wow.
And I spent way too much time on one problem that they knew later was a problem, because they actually came back and they're like, well, if you can't give us this answer, give us this answer, because there was a tech issue. Like they wanted a MAC address and it just wouldn't accept it. And I was like, am I doing something wrong? And finally they were just like, just give us the street address of like the puzzle that we had. But I probably spent about 3 hours working on that one where I could have moved on to other things. So I think that I might have even ranked even higher. But my point is that stuff like that was a recruiting event, and people who participated in it, you basically got a certificate of participation if you got, I think I got 850 points, but I think if you got 200, which was points, you achieved a participation certificate. And then I was getting recruiting emails saying, are you interested in hearing about jobs from us? So a lot of like hackathons are designed as recruiting, because they're great skill assessment.
Yeah, it's true.
And also just what you're doing in like borrowed credibility, like being visible and understanding what problems are you looking to solve.
Yeah.
And that you will find joy in. And also it goes back to understanding your lifestyle and financially, what do you need? I have now invested so much in my education that I have now a financial threshold. I'll have both a runway and threshold. I am willing to volunteer for the next year as an intern. So I'll be working for the US Geological Survey. I'm currently in the application cycle, and I've just gotten calls for interviews for the intelligence community. And I'm willing to sort of commit 2025 to just interning. But when I'm done with that, I won't look at a job that's less than 6 figures.
Yeah.
And that's not trying to hold any standard other than I have to pay for the education that I've just invested in. So you kind of have to know also, what are your boundaries? Like, what do you need to earn? Because that's also going to direct you. If you're like, I don't need to earn a lot of money, I need more flexibility, I need to be close to home, go work for a nonprofit.
Yeah.
But if you are saying, I'm one of the breadwinners for our home, we have, many expenses, we've got international family, we have to travel. Well, that might also lead to you needing more time off, or a higher income. You have to sort of figure those things out. The more you can just kind of like keep honing it in to sort of understand, is the money the driver? Is the purpose the driver? Is the flexibility the driver? And that's where I feel like a lot of it is finding that right match. Because I had done a course years ago. And so when I would sum it up for them. And part of the summation was, you quit because they're not meeting your needs. You're fired because you're not meeting their needs. You succeed because you meet each other's needs.
Yeah, that's a smart one. Yeah.
So you have to start, the more you know your needs, every one of your needs for personal time, family time, time off, flexibility, location, commute accessibility, work from home, whatever it is that you have decided is a need of yours, the amount of income, the purpose, the community, the industry. The more you know your needs, the more you already are solving half of that equation. And then the more you do your research about who matches your needs, who offers that kind of work. And that's where the networking comes in, because the more you talk to people, the more they can give you ideas. For example, and that's where there's things you may have never considered. Like, for example, you might not have considered the healthcare industry. And yeah, you may talk to someone and they're like, oh, yeah, that might meet a number of your needs. And so you look into it further and you're like, oh, I have no idea. Oh, and then it's like that part of the healthcare industry. And it's like, oh, it's that particular role. Oh, and you just kind of keep drilling down until it gets so specific that you know exactly what job you're applying for. And then I think when you apply for jobs, it also falls into two categories. There's jobs that you know when you're doing the application that it's aspirational. You're not there. It's not quite the skills match. It's not quite, you'd be, not lucky is the right word, but it's unlikely you feel like you're going to get called back from this. Or if you never hear from them, you're like, I'm not surprised, because there was definitely too big of a gap from where you are to what they wanted or needed. And then there's the other ones where you feel it's perfectly aligned. You're like, wow, okay, like this is a great application. Now it's really just based on the pool of candidates, but this feels really good. I'm there. And those are the ones you usually get a call back for. You usually get the interview at least. And then it really just depends on how many candidates or sort of timing issues that you had. So I'm a big advocate for just apply, especially with women. We will look and say, do I meet 100% of their ask? Whereas men will often just apply at 30% of the ask.
Yeah.
Of what that ideal candidate looks like. So I think, and the thing is, it's good to get practice. I am now in my third cycle of applying for a summer internship, that the first time I applied for it, I was completely ignored, got crickets, no response. The second time I kind of was still gaining my confidence. And so I actually did end up getting the interview, but I didn't notice I got the interview because I missed the email. It kind of got buried. And I had my summer of surgeries, and it was the day my mom was in the hospital. So my professors knew that I was unavailable, but I didn't go fishing for this email. I didn't go looking for it. I kind of lost confidence. I was like, oh, I didn't hear from them, so I'll just let it go. They wrote to me back at the end of the summer, because it's a year-long cycle, because you have to apply the following year. They're like, oh, we invited you to interview, but you didn't. But if you want, you can still kind of take another run at it, another chance. And then I did everything they asked me to do the second time. But at that point, I felt like the skills were very aligned, but there were probably too many candidates in the cycle because I was so late in the cycle.
Yeah.
So now it's my third year. And this week I just got the invitation to do the interview and to do a skills assessment. And I'm feeling ready. I met these people at the show, at the conference I was just at, talked to the recruiter, talked to executives there, even had them go, why do you want to be an intern? Why don't you just apply? And I was like, well, because I want to sort of get a sense of who you are, have you get a sense of who I am, and really understand like what type of job is going to be the right fit given my nascent sort of technical skills, and knowing that I want a technical job, but my more perhaps well-developed management and creative skills, like and communication, but I don't want the all communication job. So I'm trying to figure out like, where do I fit? So that's why I think internships are a good way for me to sort of get rolling and get more on technical stuff on my resume. So I give that as an example of just sometimes you just have to keep applying and then keep improving. Another great thing which you have, and I think everybody should have, is borrowed credibility. Do not ever underestimate, as women tech makers, we're volunteers, but we technically have Google on our resume.
Yeah.
And I'm a Microsoft Student Learn Ambassador. I'm an Esri Young Professional Network Ambassador. I'm about to be onboarded to be a NIST Cybersecurity Ambassador. Wow. So you get this sort of borrowed credibility. Whereas like, if I'm good enough for these mega corporations to be in their ecosystem and someone that they're willing to mentor and have represent them as a student or as a woman, then I'm probably going to be good enough for these other places where I'm applying for employment or internships.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. I try to involve in a couple of things through the climate change AI summer school and the Stanford Women in Data Science Ambassador I joined last year. And also I joined in a poly agent summit where they build agents like chatbots for research papers, to go through all the research papers and answer based on the research papers. So it's an extensive AI application, and all over these I found it's very arduous to find, multiple things at the same time. So how do we manage this time is a big uh, big question, because sometimes all things come up at one end, and either we have to give 100% or nothing. That's what I feel. But get keeping legs in many things, I just wonder sometimes, okay, will I be able to do all these things? Yeah.
I think at a certain point we have to make peace with the fact that we're not going to do everything perfectly, and you have to pick what you can do. I raise my hand for a lot of stuff. There's a lot of times where I'm like, I have signed up for more than I can ever do. And sometimes you just have to kind of understand, like, for example, with my mentorship, I wish I got an email out every week. Sometimes I get them out every 2 weeks. I wish I was able to respond like super in a timely manner, but then I won't be able to do other things. So you just have to kind of sometimes just make peace. Like, we do the best we can under the circumstances. And at the end of the day, like, I know, for example, like, my family and making sure my mom is taken care of is going to be like my top choice. But she's high maintenance and low maintenance. Like, she needs what she needs when she needs it, but the rest of the time she's fine. I think kids are the same way.
Yeah.
Like, you have to, like, there's moments they just need your attention, and you just like make sure like they're managed. But like, once they're managed, like, it's good. You can move on to other things.
True.
Our own health and well-being is the same thing. Like, most of the time it's fine if you just kind of do the minimum things you do. But every once in a while, like, we get sick. We just need to sort of say, hey, everybody, I need a break. I need to take some time to just, because that's the most important thing. If I'm not alive, I cannot help anybody.
Yeah.
So we have to sort of manage those. And at the end of the day, like, whenever I go through my task list, I'm like, I'm a student, and making sure I hit my marks for my assignments, I don't miss a deadline there, is always like my top priority. Everything else I do, I'm going to do it the best I can. For example, I did Code in Place. I loved it. It was a great thing, great program. I made all of my live sync sessions for like 1 hour a week. I watched all the videos, and I did most of the assignments. I participated. I learned a lot. I decided I didn't need the certificate. It would probably have been another like maybe 10, 15 hours, maybe 30 hours for me to have really gone in and solved every puzzle and done everything that would have hit and said, hey, here's your certificate. I have enough certificates. I didn't need a Code in Place certificate, but I love the experience. And the same thing, I'm also in climate change AI. Like, I've done a number of the sessions. I've watched the ones that I've missed, but I haven't always gone back and done the participation. And so if I get the certificate, great. If I don't, like, I don't care. Like, it's those things, like, we're making choices about that. To me, participating at 80% is okay. For those extracurriculars. Participating at 100% for my core school stuff, like, that's non-negotiable.
True. Sometimes I feel like these are so helpful to stand out in the resume, the things we do, like being an ambassadorship for such big companies, and also like helping others in data science and mentoring and hackathons. All these like are like big plus in the resume. And but still, like last year, because of the I don't know, there was some recession last year. What happened, I don't know. Out of like 500 applications I got only like 2 calls. That was really demotivating for me. And then I started like applying a lot, and then I joined as a part-time instructor for Interview Kickstart as a data science mentor. So that's still part-time, but I'm still looking for full-time roles now.
I think you just keep applying. It's just keep looking, keep talking to people. Again, you have to kind of figure out, like, where's the source? Where are you getting the information about the job? And are you one of the first 10 people to apply, or are you getting notice about that position and your application 500? So that's, one strategy. And that's what someone was saying. The more you're really dialed into like where you want to work, and you're going to their career pages, and you're on their social media, so you're hearing about that job first. I mean, I don't know if you use the LinkedIn jobs alert, where it emails you, jobs that your skills match.
Yeah.
But again, the more, like I said, you're very clear, like, I want to work for the local hospital and I'm looking for a job there, and I can get there through public transportation. And I now want to add, you've got the data science, you got the technical. Now it's like, I want to add a few more things through associations or through other things that just sort of show that I can succeed in the healthcare industry. You're going to stand those, like, that's what I'm saying. I think it's like niching in a bit.
Yeah.
So when you do like data science, like, are there particular industries that you do data science with?
Yeah, I did mostly in banking, insurance, healthcare. I kept my legs in a couple of things. Yeah.
But I would say, like, so for example, with that, like, if you just take healthcare for a second, right? And just say, okay, what are all the opportunities in healthcare? Are they in person? Are they remote? And if they're in person, where are they? Physically, where are they? Which are the local healthcare? Which are the covered entities? Which are the business associates? Like, who's all in that area? That just, again, where are the opportunities? Where's the data science? And just make sure, like, what would you add to your resume that really focuses on the healthcare track and shows that you are a healthcare person. And then do another one that's the insurance one and really show, like, I'm a member of these insurance associations, and where do you need to be networking with the insurance people? And insurance certainly needs, all of them, healthcare, data science, and banking all need data science. And then do another one that's banking. And again, as you're going through those, like, really see which industries, based on the fact that you're in this new location and you're in this new place in the world, which ones actually fit. Which ones are more, like, let's say you decide you want to do remote, which ones are more conducive to remote workers? I don't necessarily think banks are.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about insurance. I'm not even sure about healthcare. So that's where it's like, figure by kind of picking a lane and just sort of trying it on, seeing if it doesn't meet all of the requirements that you have. But I think the organizations, like, to me, are just the way forward, is like finding those communities. The women communities, to me, are amazing. Like, and also, like, where, if you're on the East Coast, like, what are the local industries? Like, what is your area known for? And again, there are some places where insurance is big. There's other places where healthcare is a little bit bigger, or, what's around you.
Yeah, it's been a decade of, like, volunteering and, like, involving in a couple of startups, and right now I'm also, like, building my startup. Just to mention, like, it's still in ideation and prototyping stage, but I collaborated with Google, so I'm happy that somehow they recognized, and we got collaborated, and we are working on that. And I want to be financially independent, that to support. So I think, like, it's kind of a roller coaster for me too, like, putting so many things on my head and looking for jobs. So I'm like looking for entry level. And the only challenge is, like, I see a lot of posts from other women too, in, like, groups or anyway. They find very challenging after certain amount of years not working, or career break, or any breaks. Like, it's hard to get back again into a career. And what do you think are the main, like, major help pointers for them to get back to work?
I think momentum is key. I think also confidence is key. And then I think packaging is key, because you have to repackage yourself, and then you have to have the confidence in your repackage. And I think finding the sense of momentum, because if you don't know where to look for the opportunities, it feels like there's no opportunities. And I remember, even like where I was a year ago, thinking that I was looking at my life being like, how am I going to do this? And are there any opportunities for me? And where do I go? And I was just feeling so safe in school, but I had no exit strategy for school. And then I learned, I'm like, oh, wait, I can do a virtual internship. That's great. And then, oh, I can do that. Like that sort of things started showing up, but I had to repackage myself. And also, it's important to sort of evaluate your own level of self-confidence. An example of this is I held a meeting in our mentorship, and except for my co-host, nobody showed up. And I was feeling kind of sad because I was like, oh, nobody showed up. I kind of invited people and nobody's here. And so you start feeling like really unpopular because you're like, I have the best intentions, but nobody showed up. And so I chatted with my co-host, and then I apologized that we didn't sort of have the group that I was hoping we would have, only to go to my email, and I found a dozen emails saying, we can't get in. We don't have the right code. And so if you're going to have a party, making sure everybody has the address to your party and knows the time of your party. And sometimes I think we do that to ourselves, because it reminded me when I was telling you I didn't have that confidence for that internship I applied for last summer. And so I didn't look for it. And those things were very parallel to me, because I lost confidence that anybody was going to show up to my event. I didn't go looking like, oh, do they have the right information? Is anybody trying to get in that can't get in? And so we won't pursue what we don't believe we can have.
True.
And so our own confidence has to sort of be foundational, because if we're not confident in ourselves, or we think, oh, well, I've only been a wife or a mom, or there's a gap in my work, or whatever it is, it's like we need to find ways to repackage ourselves. And maybe it is you take a class or get a certificate or join an organization or volunteer or do some contract work I wouldn't say be careful with the startups, because on one level they can be helpful in getting you some momentum and some confidence, but a lot of times they're a trap where a lot of HR managers will look at you and be like, well, if you're an entrepreneur, why are you here? Or if you failed, then I look at you as a failure, not a success. Or if you're too successful, like, you're going to leave us, like, and maybe you want to be doing that and not this. So I do feel like being too entrepreneurial can actually hurt, not help. But again, it's about packaging. If you're more clear about the fact that this was a project, not a business, it was an opportunity to showcase my skills. It was an opportunity to just show that I can transition. But you need to be very clear about how you present that to a hiring manager. Because a lot of times if they see too much entrepreneur, they don't want to even like interview you. And if they are stuck interviewing you, they're very skeptical about your commitment to them.
Yeah, that's always an issue.
Yeah, so you have to package it more like it was volunteer, or it was a project, or it was just something where you were, using it to develop your skills and make sure it's clear. So yeah, I would say, like, in terms of anybody who's in transition, the key is finding momentum. And I think the way you find momentum is other people. You have to get in the conversation. I'll give an example of something that I'm not doing particularly well right now, but I intend to improve upon it. Is a lot of times when I'm relaxing and I'm watching YouTube, I just end up watching whatever the algorithm serves up to me. But the reality is there are hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours, of wonderful webinar replays, podcasts, videos that are very intentional about the topics that we're interested in. And so, for example, like if you want to do healthcare, you watch some of those videos about PHI and how to protect it, and learn about the hacks that have been happening in healthcare, and learn about the different challenges that healthcare is having related to data science, and what does it mean to de-identify data, and just things that, so you start talking the language, you start thinking about the issues, you start being like, oh, okay, I understand what the problems are and how I can bring solutions. You start just seeing kind of who the leaders are in the space who are talking about these things. You start building your network and your community on LinkedIn. I mean, the follow feature is fantastic, because you don't have to worry about whether you're connected with them or not. You just follow. I mean, I've done such a good job now in cybersecurity that if I open my LinkedIn, I'm getting just a feed of infinite opportunity. So it's leading me to articles, it's leading me to GitHub repos, it's leading me to YouTube channels and podcasts and conferences and webinars. And all of those webinars have guests and more people that I follow and insights about trends and opportunities. And again, the more that you're in the world, the more that world starts to be a mirror and shows you exactly where you are, exactly how you can contribute, exactly where you were, where you are, and where you need to be.
That's amazing. Yeah.